Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to the Climate Action Spotlight Youth Power in Motion Regional Dialogue on Youth Empowerment in Climate Action. This dialogue is a celebration and showcase of the collective efforts made by youth to address climate change and serves as an opportunity to engage youth voices leading to the Summit of the Future in 2024 in conjunction with ADB Asia and the Pacific Youth Symposium, APYS, ECOSOC Youth Forum 2024, and ESCAP 80th session of the Commission. This dialogue is co-organised by UNDP in partnership with United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC, Regional Collaboration Centre for Asia Pacific, UNICEF East Asia and Pacific, UNICEF South Asia, United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, UNESCAP, United Nations Environment Programme, Asian Pacific Resource and Research Centre for Women, ARROW, the British Council, YOUNGO, Movers Programme, and the 2030 Youth Force with support from Sweden. My name is CC Shen, Partnerships and Pipeline Development Coordinator at UNDP in Asia and the Pacific, and your host for today and tomorrow. On behalf of the convening partners of the Regional Dialogue, we warmly welcome you to this event. We hope all of you are as excited as we are for today and be inspired together to act hand in hand in moving forward on the climate agenda. We are delighted to welcome fellow climate advocates, leaders and champions from all over Asia Pacific and across the world who are joining us together in one common platform. With over 15 different speakers from different countries, organizations, networks, and sectors representing various underrepresented communities, we present to you one of the most diverse and inclusive celebration of youth climate advocacy and action in Asia Pacific. Now, just a few house rules before we begin. We ask that you listen with attention and share with intention during the sessions of the dialogue. Please remember that this is an open and safe space for all, and we encourage you to share your insights and perspectives with us. We do encourage you to turn on your cameras to make our sessions more engaging. Now, if all of you are ready, then please lend us your ears, open your eyes, and dedicate your hearts as we begin our journey. To start, let us learn more about the Youth Empowerment in Climate Action platform, or YOUNGO, through the following video. Let us open the dialogue today with some messages from our organising partners. First, let us give a warm round of virtual applause to Mr. Christophe Bahouet, Deputy Regional Director for Asia and the Pacific and Director of UNDP Bangkok Regional Hub. Over to you, Christophe.
Thank you very much, Cici. Hello, everyone. And as Cici just say, wherever you are in Asia and the Pacific or elsewhere, really warm welcome to this regional dialogue, and thank you for connecting. It's great to see so many of you in this participating in this dialogue. Really happy to be with you today, and also very happy to be joined by some of our key partners for YECAP. I see Madam Hannah Maria Oltorp, who is the head of the Development Cooperation for Asia and the Pacific at the Swedish Embassy in Bangkok. And as you know, Sweden is a very active supporter of YECAP and also of climate actions. Also very happy to be joined by my colleague and friend Mio Zinut, who is the Deputy Regional Director for UNICEF here in Bangkok. And also Daniele Violetti, who is a Senior Director of the United Nations Convention Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC, also a partner. And as you saw, YECAP has many partners who have come together to support the platform. And also let me greet all the team from UNDP who has been working very hard with those partners to organize this regional dialogue, which is happening, and some of you noticed it in the chat, happening on Earth Day. We are marking Earth Day today, and I think it's quite meaningful that we have this dialogue on Earth Day, because Earth Day is a moment of celebration of the planet, of its diversity, including biodiversity. It's also a moment of reflection on the state of the planet, on climate, what's happening. And it's also a moment for action that we have taken, taking stock of what we've achieved, but also maybe a moment to commit further to more action. And that's where the YECAP platform and the regional dialogue come, as very timely. I'm a great fan of YECAP, and if you have been to the website, you will see beyond this dialogue that we're having today and tomorrow, how YECAP is active on many fronts, and how much of a momentum it has created in Asia and the Pacific particularly. We have now more than 20,000 young people who have been empowered to take climate action, who have really, through capacity building activities, through mentorship, through funding, have actually stepped in and really undertaken climate action. We have dozens of youth-led projects, climate action projects that have been supported by YECAP. So the numbers are impressive, and we need to continue to have them grow. But the stories are also compelling. And YECAP is also, a platform for inspiring human stories, individual stories. And we have actually now many of them. And just one I could mention today, because there is a video that I would really encourage you to watch, which is called Climate Action Explained video, done by Dr. Michael Shandama from India. Now, Michael is a youth activist. He comes from indigenous people in India, and with an NGO that he has created, he has been really engaging in the communities for climate action, for SDG awareness, and also for the preservation of indigenous people knowledge, which is really a richness and is a solution to many of the challenges that we found. So a lot of inspiring story come under YECAP, but YECAP is also a platform for dialogue and really for exchanges, and that's why we are very keen as supporters of YECAP to have this regional dialogue every year. It is really about providing a space, and as Cici mentioned, a safe space for all of you as young climate activists, as really believers in the value of climate action and the power of the youth to actually come together, talk, exchange experience, and engage in impactful initiatives. It is also about fostering partnerships among yourself with many sponsoring organizations. So it's also a partnership forging moment. And for us as UNDP, it's extremely, important to see YOUNGO active and successful. It's very much part of our commitment to climate actions, in climate financing, and also the nationally determined contribution. We have an initiative called Climate Promise, which encapsulate all of this. But climate action for us goes, and that's really a value of the United Nations as a whole, it really goes with inclusion. And one of our key priorities is actually inclusion. It's actually quite interesting to see how many countries have their NDCs with an inclusion component. And when we've been working with government, we've really made the case for youth in particular to be included. And I think we've now over 90% of the Climate Promise initiative that have youth included. So that's really a demonstration of the power, but also the space that the youth can take. And we have also something that is very meaningful to us, which is called unequal terms. It's really a checklist for decision maker, for government on youth inclusion in the NDC processes. So that's, that needs to continue, that needs to become stronger and stronger with the engagement of all of us. And I think, and I will end here, the theme for this year regional dialogue is very compelling, very meaningful, youth power in motion. And I think that's really what we're seeing through YOUNGO and also many other mechanisms, that youth power is strong, is here, is heard, and is in motion. And we need to make that motion stronger and quicker. And I'm sure that with this dialogue, we will make a further step in this direction. So again, thank you for joining. Let's enjoy this moment together. Let's have an exchange that is, bringing us further in climate action with the youth. And back to you, Cici.
Great. Thank you so much, Christophe. To echo some of the important points that you shared, today's dialogue really coincides with Earth Day and emphasizes that urgent need for climate action. And YOUNGO really is that platform with over 20,000 young people that have been empowered to take climate action, and many youth-led climate action projects have been supported by YOUNGO. And of course, one of UNDP's Climate Promises priorities is very much around inclusion and youth engagement. So thank you so much. Up next, we have Mr. Maizin Nyut, Deputy Regional Director, UNICEF East Asia and Pacific Regional Office. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Cici. Good morning, colleagues. I want to recognize Mr. Christopher Bahoué, Deputy Regional Director for Asia and the Pacific and Director of Bangkok Regional Hub for UNDP, Ms. Danielle Violetti, Senior Director of UNFCCC, Ms. Anna Maria Ultrop, Head and Development Cooperation of CEDA, Embassy of Sweden in Bangkok, and most importantly, our young people attending this event. Your presence here today underlies how important it is that young people are at full and equal partnership in our efforts to secure a sustainable future of our planet Earth. For the young people in Asia and the Pacific region, the stakes could be higher. Statistics show that about 41% of children in our region are likely to experience 5 or more climate and environmental shocks and hazards, dangers that range from water scarcity, coastal flooding, cyclones, air pollution, and most importantly, the heat wave, the recent phenomena. That level of risk far exceeds the global average of only 14%, 1/4, and the region had 41%. For adolescent girls, the challenges are even more extreme due to deeply entrenched gender inequalities that really hinder their access to opportunities and restrict their ability to speak out on issues shaping their futures. Despite these challenges, I'm very pleased that young people in our region are a driving force for change. They are creating opportunities, they are improving lives in their own communities through renewable energy, sustainable farming, environmental conversion, and youth climate advocacy. I want to share 2 good examples from the region about the action taken by the young people. In Mongolia, members of very energetic teen parliamentarians have joined calls for climate-friendly policies to tackle air pollution and other threats in Mongolia. In Cambodia, adolescent girls are now getting the chance to acquire the green skills. They do need to work on solar power systems. So these are a few good examples, and we have some more. It's a start, but only a start. Much more needs to happen for young people to really fulfill their potential in innovation, advocacy, and also in action. I'm very confident that you will be exercising your fundamental rights to participate by transforming your thoughts and ideas into concrete realities and actions that open the way to progress. As UNICEF, we are committed to work with you as equal partners and involving you in design and implementation of program, policies, interventions. We are also investing in education and the development of essential skills young people need, as well as providing safe platforms for you to shape and voice your concerns. We hope that this support will open up opportunities that meet your needs, cultivating a generation of critical thinkers, problem solvers, ready to take on the world's environmental challenges with expertise and confidence. Your perseverance and resilience cannot be ignored. Your work, standing on your ground, creating positive changes, and above all, pushing the boundaries of what can be achieved continues to guide our efforts. Our journey may be still a long one, but we have made important progress. I want to extend my sincere thanks to our partners at YCAP, UNDP, UNFCCC, Swedish CEDAR for their dedication to ensure that young people's voices are recognized, heard, and acted upon. We have borrowed this planet from our future generations. It is our profound duty to ensure that this borrowed treasure, the earth, is returned enriched, but not impoverished. Thank you all. I wish you all a dynamic, enriching, and impactful dialogue. Happy Earth Day. Thank you. And back to you, Sisi.
Thank you very much, Maizin, for your opening remarks. To again echo some of the important points you've shared, despite children and youth being more susceptible to experiencing 5 or more environmental shocks, young people in our region are the driving force for change, creating opportunities and improving lives for their communities. And young people are full and equal partners in our efforts to secure a sustainable future for our planet Earth. Up next, we have Mr. Daniel Violetti, Senior Director, UNFCCC, for his video message.
Dear colleagues, friends, and young people of Asia and the Pacific, on behalf of UN Climate Change and our Regional Collaboration Centre for Asia and the Pacific, I warmly welcome you all to this regional dialogue on youth empowerment. We are pleased to partner with so many champions of climate action in the region and host this dialogue on the Climate Action Spotlight, Youth Power in Motion. This dialogue is a celebration and showcase of collective efforts to empower youth to address climate change. It is an opportunity for you to bring your voice to the conversation. The dialogue includes youth from the region, development organizations, policymakers, civil society organizations, and other stakeholders. It opens space to share insights, learn from others, and contribute to global climate action. This year's dialogue puts the climate action spotlight on youth. Over the years, youth have catalyzed change and pushed for progress in the international climate talks. 30 years ago, Severn Scullis Suzuki, only 12 years old at the time, spoke at the Earth Summit in Brazil, which delivered the 3 Rio Conventions on climate change, biodiversity, and land desertification. In 2015, at COP21, Selina Lim from the low-lying Marshall Islands spoke at the closing plenary upon the agreement of the Paris Agreement. Her story underscored the existential threat of climate change for the most vulnerable. These are some of the memorable milestones of the climate change process, during which the voice of youth was heard, leading the way and calling for change. At the recent COP28, a historic decision was taken by governments to institutionalize the figure of the COP presidency youth climate champion to ensure ongoing engagement of young people in climate action and decision-making. Now, you have an opportunity to contribute your voice to the conversation. Over the past year, the Youth Empowerment in Climate Action Program has worked with regional stakeholders to support young people in Asia and the Pacific. Through YICAP, over 21,000 young people have been empowered to act on climate change through capacity building, mentorship, and funding opportunities. YICAP has also enabled over 1,000 youth-led climate projects across the region. It fosters partnership between youth and stakeholders, including policymakers, development organizations, and others to drive collective action and inclusive dialogues. I want to recognize all the individuals and organizations that engage under YICAP, and I encourage you all to keep that momentum going. At the Secretariat, we will continue to provide platforms and enable engagement at the regional level. We remain committed to supporting youth as critical agents of change and climate action. As our regional bridge, RCC Asia Pacific, will connect all the dots and maintain the vital link to the Secretariat and climate process. Today's regional dialogue opens an opportunity to be heard. It is a space for youth to share ideas, enthusiasm, and initiatives related to climate action. It is instrumental in keeping the momentum moving towards cohesive and collective action for the climate. So thank you all, our participants who are joining today, and sincere thanks to all our partners for coming together to organize this event. And thank you to all the policymakers who listen to the voice of youth. I wish you all a productive dialogue and look forward to more youth engagement on climate change. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Danielle, for your insightful perspective. As mentioned, today's regional dialogue opens an opportunity for young people to be heard. And it's great to hear that the Secretariat will continue to provide platforms and enable youth engagement at the regional level, remaining committed to supporting young people as critical agents of change. Up next, we have Miss Anna Maria Ortop, Head, Development Cooperation Section, Regional Asia and the Pacific, Embassy of Sweden in Bangkok, for her opening remarks. Over to you, Ms. Anna Maria.
Thank you, Sissi. And I'm very pleased to be here this morning together with guests, partners, and inspiring young individuals who are the driving force behind today's regional dialogue. I extend my warmest welcome to each and every one of you as we gather today to spotlight youth move power in motion. Today is also Earth Day, and our regional dialogue takes on even greater significance. Earth Day serves as a powerful reminder of the urgent need to address the climate crisis and protect our planet's precious ecosystems. We hope to inspire lasting change in our efforts to safeguard our planet and combat the climate crisis, not just on Earth Day, of course, but every day. Asia-Pacific region is home to 1.1 billion young people. These young people, they are innovators, dreamers, and an important part of climate governance, reflecting their own hopes and dreams. The Swedish Strategy for Regional Development Cooperation in Asia and the Pacific has the objective to contribute to a sustainable development in the region through mutual interaction between human rights, democracy, gender equality, environment, and climate change. Recently, the Swedish government presented a new reform agenda for development cooperation, development assistance for a new era. With the new agenda, the government aims to promote democratic participation and representation for youth. Youth especially those from marginalized groups, can be powerful actors in accelerating change. It is crucial that youths who are affected by the impacts of climate change have the right to participate in the decision-making that affects them. It is also through investing in the younger generation that development cooperation can help lay the foundation for sustainable development and a green and just transition. The collaboration between Sweden and YECAP started 2 years ago before Stockholm Plus 50 conference that took place in Sweden. Since then, it's been an exciting journey. The YECAP platform has established itself as a climate action platform for youth in the Asia-Pacific region, but not only engaging over 21,000 young individuals, but also amplifying its impact through strategic alliances with various UN entities, seamlessly promoting the unity and efficiency of the One UN approach. They strive to and actively work towards fostering a coordinated approach on a policy level through the NDCs. As we, together with UNDP, UNICEF, and UNFCCC, create a platform for meaningful dialogue, collaboration, and action, driving positive change for a sustainable and inclusive future, we encourage you to share your voices, keep your climate action in motion, and we extend an invitation to fellow donors to join forces on this partnership and journey. Once again, thank you all for joining today.
Thank you very much, Anna Maria, for your remarks. As you mentioned, it's crucial that youth affected by climate change are able to participate in the decision-making mechanisms that affect them. And it's great to hear that Sweden's regional development strategy emphasizes youth participation and lays the foundation for sustainable development. Up next, we have our exciting session celebrating youth from YECAP, where you will hear the journeys of two outstanding young climate advocates from YECAP. To moderate the session, please welcome Mr. Joshua Bellion, Meaningful Youth Engagement in Climate Governance Consultant, UNDP Bangkok Regional Hub, to moderate the discussion and to introduce the speakers. Over to you, Joshua.
All right, thank you very, very much, Cici, for the introduction. And thank you again to all of the keynote speakers for your insights. And today I am extremely grateful to bring two of our extremely esteemed speakers and youth who have been very, very active in their own region and their own country. And with that, I would like to first introduce Ms. Carly Leung. She's the co-founder of Climate Incubator and YECAP's Asia Pacific Youth Advisory Group member on Environmental and Climate Justice, or YAC, and Mr. Sheshakhan Bangash, founder of Skilistan, Movers Envoy, and YECAP Fellow. So to start, I would like to bring Ms. Carly Leung to the floor for her speech. The floor is yours, Ms. Carly.
Thank you, Joshua. It's a pleasure to be here to deliver a speech on Earth Day. Happy Earth Day, everyone. And I would like to say thank you for the invitation. Now, before I start my speech, and I would like to ask a question. Have you ever wondered what a perfect, environmentally sustainable world may look like? If you ask me that question now, I would say it's a world that is fair, inclusive, and embrace all walks of life. But if you ask me these questions 4 years ago, I wouldn't have even been able to imagine or understand what sustainability meant. Back then, I was an undergraduate student majoring in psychology, and I didn't even study anything related to climate change or environmental issues. I was feeling lost and unsure about my future, so I decided to travel to Uganda and Nepal. I spent 2 weeks with the locals working on community projects, and it was during that time that I witnessed the firsthand impacts of climate change. In Uganda, I worked on water storage and sanitation projects because they face seasonal droughts. The lack of clean water meant that women and children had to spend nearly 2 hours each day fetching water. Together with other students, we built a water storage system for the local community. In Nepal, I saw how climate change was affecting women and farmers. Extreme weather events were having a devastating impact on agriculture and food production, which in turn affecting their livelihood as well. These experiences planted the seed of passion within me for climate issues, particularly climate justice. I wanted to explore more about climate topics and make a difference. As a young person who cares deeply about climate justice and sustainable development, I firmly believe that it's our collective responsibility to protect the planet for our current and future generations. To make a real impact, I have actively engaged at various levels, both nationally and internationally, to fight against climate change. 2 years ago, I joined a program called Climate Advocacy Training in Hong Kong and was selected to attend COP27, where I had the privilege of representing the voices of youth and advocating for stronger climate policies. Before going to COP27, I had the opportunity to develop an advocacy project in Hong Kong. Alongside other Hong Kong youth delegates, we wrote a youth statement to Hong Kong government, providing suggestions for more ambitious climate action. And this was another turning point in my climate journey. And it sparked a deep interest in climate education, climate justice, and empowering more young people. And these topics have motivated me to seek knowledge, connect with experts, and actively contribute to the cause at COP. Another significant involvement of mine has been with the UN Asia Pacific Youth Advisory Group on environmental and climate justice. This platform has provided me with invaluable opportunities to engage with youth from diverse backgrounds and collaborate on climate-related issues. Through this engagement, I participated in COP28, and I'm grateful for the support I received from organizations like YOUNGO. And it has been a catalyst for change in my journey and providing a space for knowledge exchange, amplifying youth voices, and fostering collaborations. Together with other advisory group members, we have achieved remarkable milestones, including impactful climate initiatives, lobbying efforts, and the development of positions papers. As part of the UN Asia Pacific Youth Advisory Group member, I also had the honor of representing YOUNGO as a steering committee member of the COP28 Children and Youth Pavilion. This platform allowed me to engage with and support thousands of youth on site, providing them with the tools and resources needed to take action against climate change. And together with another YOUNGO member, Poran, we organized different sections and networking opportunities to amplify the voices of APAC youth at COP. Moreover, YOUNGO has been a hub for collaborative efforts among youth. We have formed partnership, initiated collective projects, and worked towards common goals within and beyond the platform. This year, through my own initiative called the Climate Incubator, I established a mentorship program in the Asia-Pacific region. The program aims to connect young individuals passionate about climate action with experienced professionals working in the climate sector. By doing so, we empower youth to pursue green jobs and contribute to a just transition. With YOUNGO's support, we have been able to expand our reach beyond Hong Kong, connecting with youth across the APAC region. Another speaker in this session, Shihang, is one of our APAC mentors as well. And thanks to YOUNGO, we were able to connect and collaborate further. And this expansion has been made possible through the guidance and support of different organizations and passionate individuals like every one of you. Looking ahead, my long-term goals remain strong, and I'm aimed to create a world where youth voices are not only heard, but also actively incorporated into decision-making process. And I envision a society where accessible climate education is the norm and climate justice is deeply intertwined with social justice. It is through these efforts that I can truly pave the way for a just and sustainable future. Ultimately, the success lies in the realization of a society where youth voices are not only acknowledged, but celebrated. We aspire to see accessible climate education integrated into educational systems where every young person understands the urgency of climate action and possesses the skills necessarily for creating change. Today, I call upon every young person in this room and beyond to join us in this crucial mission. It is our responsibility to amplify our voices, lobby for stronger climate policies, and actively engage in climate action. Together, we can create a groundswell of change that will spread across borders and inspire generations to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Carly, for your inspiring story. And I hope people get a little bit of insight from her journey, being someone who have very limited knowledge on climate action to someone who is taking the initiative nationally in Hong Kong SAR and regionally in the Asia Pacific region. And with that, I would like to introduce another amazing youth all the way from Pakistan, Mr. Shashank Bangash. He is a great friend, but also a founder of Skillistan, Movers Envoy, and YOUNGO Fellow. Floor is yours.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests and fellow advocates for our planet. Good morning and wishing you all a very happy Earth Day and year ahead. Today, I'm here to share with you a personal journey, a transition from the oil and gas industry to the forefront of climate advocacy. This must be the most unique story that you ever hear of a climate advocate coming from the oil and gas industry. So it's a path that took me from being part of the problem to being part of the solution, and again driven by an urgent call to address the environmental challenges posed by fossil fuel industry. How did it all start? Just after doing my degree in MS degree in development studies, I immediately started my career in the oil and gas industry. Although I was in the community development sector, a CSR role, a bit green, I would say, but hey, there's no green in the oil and gas industry. It's all greenwashing, right? So over time, my inner voice became a catalyst for change. I realized I could no longer contribute to this cycle of destruction. But hey, where to start? Everyone wants a platform, but they don't get one. So one day I was scrolling on LinkedIn and I found this beautiful post. I would say it was my eureka moment. And again, it was from my mentor. I hope she's here, Lamia Alam. She posted about the Movers Boot Camp happening in Pakistan. It was back in August 2021. And I just saw a post and I was like, I think I found my calling. And I emailed her. And that day and today, life has changed, 100 degrees opposite side. And I then joined the Movers program, right? And then at that time, YCAP was also launched. I joined in the third cohort, but I was there since the start. All my friends in cohort 1, cohort 2, and slowly and gradually, this was the beginning for me. And it was a chance to align my personal values with my professional endeavors. And I had to say bye-bye to the oil and gas industry forever. And now I'm kind of working against it. So in terms of capacity building, this was a complete transformation that required me to embark on a profound journey of self-discovery and even skill development. So I was moving from a technical role in a highly structured industry to becoming a vocal advocate for climate action, and this was definitely challenging. I immersed myself in further learning as a lifelong learner, and soon I discovered a deep seated passion for engaging youth, building capacities, and advocating for policy changes. So, these efforts were definitely fueled by personal experiences that happened and a vision for a more sustainable future where young voices lead the charge towards meaningful climate solution. Now bring in YCAP. If I didn't have YCAP over here, I might not have had such accelerated growth. It definitely, the journey that YCAP gave me and its sister organization, Movers Program, have been very instrumental. It served as a catalyst for both my personal and professional growth, providing a highly supportive community and invaluable resources to navigate these complexities of climate activism. Not everyone understands these complexities in the start. You need a supportive community for it. And through YCAP, I had the privilege of stepping into different leadership roles, participating in workshops, forging connections that amplified our collective impact on a global scale. Now, coming to some of my major achievements, all credited to YCAP, Movers, whatever I do next, I'll always be crediting it to YCAP. So, one of the landmark initiatives that I spearheaded was organizing the first ever Alcoy Pakistan Local Conference of Youth in 2023 under the auspices of YOUNGO. And YCAP and Movers Program were both co-organizers because I had to give back to my platforms. And this event not only paved the way for youth empowerment, but also set the stage for all ongoing climate action across Pakistan. Anyone who is from Pakistan would be witness to this, that the first Alcoy Pakistan has really changed the climate space of Pakistan. Then I represented our efforts in platforms as grand as the virtual regional conference of youth in Asia Pacific. Then I went on to the 18th conference of youth in the UAE, COI 18, all leading up to my active participation in COP28, including we drafted a policy on the health climate nexus because this year it was the first time that health was represented as a separate day in COP28. And currently, I am serving once again as the YOUNGO country contact point for Alcoy Pakistan 2024. This year, we are planning even more big. Before the main Alcoy event, we are doing 7 mini Alcoy events across Pakistan. We are localizing the Alcoy. And in this, we are aiming to physically engage 8 to 10,000 youth participation is expected across Pakistan. And one of the most unique Alcoy that we are doing is called Alcoy Faith. And in this, we are going to leverage the power of faith leaders and bring them all together for this mini event before the main national Alcoy. Furthermore, I would like to say that one of the best achievement and this year I completed was to become the only mover centurion with 100 workshops. And I have been through all places from slum schools to the biggest universities. I even went to a church for the first time in my life just to do a workshop on climate for the minorities in Pakistan. And the best one, I would say, was a hybrid workshop that we did. And Joshua was there joining in from Brunei. I was sitting here in Pakistan. And the workshop was happening physically in India. Our movers and YCAP team was there on the ground too. So it was a hybrid workshop on climate action level 5. And we had 460 plus participants trained in that one workshop. So imagine the collaboration that happens at YCAP. So my work with YCAP then also was when I was part of drafting best practices of meaningful youth engagement in climate governance. And again, this was led by Joshua, one of the best documents. Everyone should read it, because when I was doing this research, I found a lot of best practices happening in other countries, but not in Pakistan. And I tried to make them happen in Pakistan. So that was one major collaborative achievement through YCAP. Again, each collaborative initiative, be it through simple workshop organization or lobbying for policy changes, has been a testament to the spirit of collective empowerment and the strength found in diversity. I always say my favorite SDG is the 17th one, partnerships for the goals. And I show through my examples. For example, I collaborated with Carly. We recently also did a webinar on green scales. Then there are Ong Singh is there. We collaborate on so many workshops. And then Afaf was there. He was there to collaborate in Elkois. And so many more. I would say Rida, Aruj. We collectively did last year's ELCOI. And I really loved meeting all the YCAP fellows in COI 18 and COP 28. Talking about my long-term goals and purpose, looking forward, my movers friends usually say I'm unstoppable. And I am unstoppable. I am driven by a vision to empower youth for sustainable growth. The target is to train 100,000 youth by 2030. And through my initiative, Skillistan, we're doing a lot. We are even translating climate curriculum into regional languages such as Urdu and Pashto to enhance accessibility and impact. And we also just launched our SDG Impact Leaders Fellowship, which means that, now from being a fellow, I'm going to train many more fellows. Last, I stand before you today. I invite every young person here to join this movement. Your voice matters, your actions count. Engage in activism, innovate solutions, and collaborate across borders and cultures, as climate is not bound by your borders. So let's harness our collective energy to continue this journey towards a brighter, more sustainable future. Together under platforms like YCAP, we are not just participants here, but leaders of change, and you can also become one. And let's keep pushing forward together, and let this conference be not just a place of discussion, but a launch pad for action. As a united force for good, we can be the change our planet desperately needs. Thank you very much for listening to my story.
Thank you very much, Shersha, for your amazing story. And I'd just like to just quickly bring both of you in for a very, very quick Q&A session from me. So for Carly, going up with you, having witnessed climate change issue firsthand in Uganda and Nepal, participating in international platforms such as COP27 and 28. So basically, I was like wondering, how does that diverse insight, how do you integrate the diverse insight from this experience to drive effective climate education and justice at grassroots and global level? And please be mindful of the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Joshua, and nice speech, Shasha. I think the first thing is about knowledge exchange, because when I go to this big conference like COP, the most important thing is to trying to bring back what we have experienced at COP to the local level. That's the most important thing, because sometimes when you go to this COP, it looks massive and it looks very far-reaching. The most important thing is to trying to echo with the local experience altogether. And the second thing is to transfer good examples as well. So what I've learned from COP and what I've learned locally in Hong Kong, such as developing some of the social dialogues with civic societies, youth. We're trying to advocate this kind of practical efforts in the global level as well. And then I think lastly, individually speaking, or how to empower more young people is to create your mini projects. Or for example, I created a climate incubator. We're trying to develop a program to teach students or participants about negotiation skills or about how to become like a climate leaders. And I think these things are very important to push for more effective climate educations and even climate justice in the local level.
Thank you very much, Carly. And over to you, Shasha. My question for you is gathering into the speech that you said just now, and you facilitated over like 1,000 workshop on climate issues, spanning diverse setting from slum schools to churches. I was actually wondering, like, how do you tailor your approach to suit different audiences, and what has been the most effective strategy in mobilizing these various groups towards climate action? And also, mindful of your time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joshua. You missaid it 1,000. You've given me again a big mission, but yes, I am going to do maybe one day 1,000 workshops soon. And so the answer to your question is basically in all these practical experiences that I did, we always have to tailor our content to the audience. And one of the most significant thing that we did from the Movers YCAP platform combined was when we translated the Movers curriculum into Urdu last year. And I would say the significance of that, translation was that, afterwards, when I was doing climate level 1 with someone in Urdu, although they understand English, but the power of language can not be underestimated. It's so important to speak to people in their own language, especially about this, such an important topic, climate. We need to translate the curriculum into local languages, try to make it accessible for people. Usually our people know English, but they don't have the confidence to speak. So whenever we tailor our content, even if we have to speak in English, I would say localize the content. Try to incorporate some local aspects into the main content. Again, talking about the Movers and YCAP curriculum. So I always add a slide from my own or something just to make it more accessible. And also the experience from these 100 workshops say that, it always gets better with practice. Your first workshop is not going to be the best one. And, slowly and gradually, you will be speaking in workshops without any preparations. That's the power of practicing.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, both speakers. Inspiring story. And I'm so happy that you guys are a friend as well, not just local advocate, how does this struggle in arms in climate action, but also amazing people in respective countries and region. And with that, I would like to bring you CC in. Thank you very much. Floor is yours.
Great. Thank you so much, Joshua, for the moderation. And thank you so much to Carly and Shersha for your powerful messages. I think what we can learn from both Shersha and Carly's stories is they were compelled to start their climate journeys through a dissatisfaction with the status quo, and choosing to not stand idly by, they embrace their roles as catalysts for change. And wow, how amazing are these young change makers? It's also an important reminder for all of us that meaningful impact is not the achievement of one, but the collective endeavor of a community of change makers, like everyone on this call today, that are united in their efforts to create lasting change. Thank you once again to all of our speakers. And now we head to our next session, which is our panel discussion, Putting Ourselves on a Better Path. To moderate this session and introduce the speakers, please welcome Ms. Vivian Lam, UN University Volunteer in Climate Governance and Youth Empowerment, UNDP Bangkok Regional Hub, to moderate the discussion. Over to you, Vivian.
Thank you, Sissy. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Vivian. So welcome all to the panel discussion, Putting Ourselves on a Better Path. In this section, our panelists will share how to advocate for young people as equal partners and create an enabling environment for youth participation in environmental decision-making and climate action. In this section, we welcome 5 panelists to discuss this timely subject. They are Ms. Ashwaya V, Ms. Juliet Braslow, Ms. Minsun Kim, Ms. Shiva Kamachaya, and Ms. Tiziana Garcia Tapia. To kick off our panel, our first speaker is Ms. Minsun Kim. Minsun is the Program Officer from UNEP, working for Intergovernmental Affairs and UN Engagement. She will share with us the insights on the progress being made in the Asia-Pacific region towards Sustainable Development Goal 13 and highlight ways to enhance youth engagement in this critical work. Minsun, please.
Hello, Vivian. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm sharing my screen now. Can you confirm whether you can see my screen?
Yeah.
Hey. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Min-sun Kim, and I'm working as a program officer in UNEP Regional Office for Asia and the Pacific. But first of all, I would like to express my gratitude to the organizer for this panel discussion to invite me for having this presentation. I also want to share that this presentation has been prepared based on the SDG 13 Climate Action Goal Brief. It was developed for Asia Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development, in short APFSD, and through the collaborative work between the UN agencies. My presentation will talk about the progress and challenges toward the SDG 13 in Asia Pacific region and how we can engage young people meaningfully in advance of the progress toward the SDG 13. The figure here shows that the progress on Goal 13 indicators toward the 2030 targets. Asia Pacific are doing well in developing their NDCs, but their commitment is not ambitious enough to keep global warming within the 1.5 degrees Celsius. It is slow to adopt policies supporting. It is slow to adopt the policies supporting ambitious greenhouse gas emission reduction target. Regionally, there has been an increase in death and missing person, which is attributed to disasters. There has been more disaster displacement than any other region, accounting for 1/3 of the global total. National adoption for disaster risk reduction strategy is on target, but its implementation is lagging with the limited subnational actions. There has been some progress in climate finance and the investment flow and education. Asia Pacific received more than $180 billion in climate finance from bilateral donors and the multilateral development funds. And foreign direct investment, FDI, has also become an important means for financing climate actions globally. There has been improvement in education, awareness raising, and human and institutional capacities on climate action through various networks and then platforms. Even though there were some progress, still we have some key challenges. First, coherent efforts to foster resilience and then reduce emission should be scaled up. And second, even though there were progress, climate finance and also the investment flows should still be improved. And third, action on adoption should scale up. Increase investment in the nature-based solution can reduce the net zero gap and also enhance the carbon absorption in Asia Pacific. Preserving cultural and incorporating indigenous local wisdom is also crucial in climate change solutions. Next, coherent efforts to foster resilience and reduce emission in transport sector should be scaled up. The transport sector is very important in reducing the carbon dioxide emission, but often it is overlooked in climate change policies. Lastly, nature-based solution into climate change adaptation and mitigation should be mainstreamed. To accelerate progress in SDG and reverse the current regression, the following 7 priorities were identified. And priorities include such as evaluating NBC and communicating more ambitious targets, also the scaling up the finance and investment, and the using of the gender and environmental data, and social protection policies, and then incorporating transport sectors, and also the participation of the vulnerable group in climate change related decision. Among the several points, we will focus on the last priority, promoting active youth involvement in climate action. Then, why should we engage youth in climate actions? Young people are disproportionately impacted by the climate change, but they are also very important agents for climate action who can make the changes. Climate action requires innovation and also the new perspective. And then usually the youth are in the position that they can contribute with their creativity and passion and also the digital literacy. By through the youth engagement, meaningful youth engagement, the whole society can also contribute, can also prepare very well in tackling the global challenges. Then how youth can be meaningfully engaged in climate actions. Youth could engage in climate action through building capacities or public and political participation, youth solution, and so on. The policy brief on meaningful youth engagement in climate action in Asia Pacific introduced the strategies for promoting active youth engagement in climate actions. First, climate education needs to incorporate into the schools, and the youth needs to engage in research. Second, youth should involve in the climate awareness campaigns and then skill building events. And youth also engage in the data collection, review, monitoring, and consultation on the climate policy design or political process related to climate change. We also need to ensure the transparency in environmental policy information. Youth solution and the hands-on in community activities should be encouraged, and then this should include linking the youth innovators to the finance. Lastly, the stigma attached to the youth engagement should be reduced, and it should be through the public awareness and the training for elder leaders. UNEP has given special importance to work of the young people for the environment. And I would like to take this opportunity to introduce the initiative for youth, Green Jobs for Youth Pact, briefly. The Green Jobs for Youth Pact was launched at the UNFCCC COP27 by UNEP, ILO, UNICEF, and this is to ensure decent and sustainable employment opportunity for young people and fostering a just transition. Under this initiative, different activities are ongoing in different categories like green skills and employment, greening education and skills, and the green empowerment and the youth engagement. UNEP had an Asia Pacific Youth Environmental Forum last year in Sri Lanka. And in the main outcome document for this youth forum is introducing the 8 action points. And one of the 8 action points is using Asia Pacific member. One of the action points is urging the Asia Pacific members to support the Green Jobs for Youth Pact. It is predicted that 80 million jobs will be lost due to the climate change. So considering this, that this youth pact is led by youth to address the global challenge like a climate change, it might be relevant to this panel discussion for youth. And as you may, many of you already know that 22nd April Day is the International Mother Earth Day. It recognizes the Earth as the human's common home and the need to protect the Earth. And climate change is one of the major crises that our faith is facing. So today's discussion, I think it is especially crucial as it brings young people to for discussion and then to act as an agent for making change to protect our Mother Earth. And in this final slide, I'm sharing all the links for the goal brief and then policy brief and then official website. So you could find the detailed information about the presentation. And this is the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you, Min Sung. Thank you for sharing the progress and challenge around the SDG 13 and UNEP's work to engage youth in the climate action. So after knowing like the overview of the progress and challenge around SDG 13, it would be great if we can like listen to some outcomes and youth insights towards SDG 13 from youth. So building on that, our next speaker is Ms. Shiva Kamacharya. Shiva is the program officer from Arrow, where she engages young people across the Asia Pacific to help shape the regional and global policies around the SDGs, gender, and sexual and reproductive health and rights. So Shiva will share the outcomes and youth insights that emerged from the recent Asia Pacific Sustainable Development Youth Forum. So Shiva, please.
Thank you, Vivian. So hello everyone, I am Shiva Karmacharya. I work as a program officer at the Asian Pacific Research and Resource Center for Women. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about young people's engagement in the SDG review and specifically focusing on the APFST, which is also called the Asian Pacific Forum for Sustainable Development Goals. Next slide. So the Asia Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development is an annual inclusive intergovernmental forum to support follow-up and review of progress on the SDGs at the regional level. Since 2017, Arrow, along with Youth Lead and YPR Asia Pacific, has been organizing the annual APFST Youth Forum ahead of the APFST Intergovernmental Fora. From 2023, we are also joined by Major Group for Children and Youth, MGCY, and Children and Youth Major Group 2, UNEP. So APFST Youth Forum basically brings together young people from the Asia Pacific region to discuss on the progress, challenges, and gaps on sustainable development goals, specifically the goals under review. And the outcome document of this youth forum is a regional call to action along with other country-specific and other sub-regional call to actions, which feeds into the APFST Intergovernmental Fora and also in the high-level political forum.
Next slide, please. So this year, the APFST was organized from 15th to 17th of February in a hybrid modality. The Youth Forum provided access to 450 young people from across 36 countries in the Asia Pacific. And this included 120 young people who attended the Youth Forum in person in Bangkok, and 200 young people who engaged virtually through Zoom. The goals under review this year was goal number 1, no poverty, goal number 2, zero hunger, goal number 13, climate action, goal number 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions, and goal number 17, partnerships for the goals. Like the previous years, this year also the outcome of the APFST Youth Forum was 1 regional youth call to action and 25 country-specific youth call to action, which had recommendations on the SDG goals under review. So the APFST Youth Call to Action 2024 will feed into the APFST Intergovernmental Fora, the ECOSOC Youth Forum, and will also inform advocacy at the high-level political forum and also at the Summit of the Future that will take place in September 2024. This year, we had something different at the APFST Youth Forum. So we also had an innovation exhibition that showcased the initiatives of 17 youth change makers. And this was one of the main highlights of the APFST Youth Forum 2024. So the initiatives were mainly focused on climate action, gender equality, sexual and reproductive health, and CSE, and human rights. We had 7 climate action innovations, and these projects were basically initiated by young change makers across Asia Pacific. Next slide. So that was about young people's engagement at the for the SDG review in the regional level. We also have youth-led initiatives which dedicated to the SDG review at the national levels. So first of all, we have Nepal APFST Youth Alliance, which is also called NAYA in short. The Nepal APFST Youth Alliance was formed in 2021 after the 8th APFST Youth Forum. And now it has over 100 members across Nepal. And they engage with the government bodies like the National Planning Commission and the National Youth Council to seek accountability and also to encourage young people's participation in SDG implementation. We also have Bangladesh SDG Summit that happens every year, and which is led by young people from Bangladesh. They gather together and discuss on the progress, on the gaps and challenges on the SDG goals under review. And they also develop a youth call to action that they bring in the APFST Youth Forum every year. From this year, we also had young people from Bhutan, Mongolia, and PNG organizing a national youth forum where they brought together young people from their countries, and they discussed on the progress gaps and challenges on SDG goals under review. And they also developed a national youth call to action, which they again brought in the APFST Youth Forum, and the recommendations generated from the national youth call to action were they were also fed into the regional youth call to action. And this National Youth Forum was supported by YPR Asia Pacific and Aero. Next slide, please. So that was about the APFST engagement and the young people's engagement in the SDG review. The General Assembly have decided that the Summit of the Future would take place in September 2024, building on the 2023 SDG Summit, and that its outcome would be an intergovernmentally negotiated, action-oriented pact for the future. So we, as a regional organization, see this as an opportunity for young people from Asia and the Pacific region to engage and amplify the voices from the APFSD Youth Forum. So Arrow is organizing an intersectional rights youth dialogue that will be held in July or in September ahead of the Summit of the Future. This youth dialogue will amplify youth voices from the region, especially from the APFSD Youth Call to Action recommendations with an intersectional gender equality and human rights lens. We also have other online engagements that will continue from April to September 2024. So with this, I would like to pass it to Vivian. Thank you.
Thank you, Shiva. Thank you for your sharing. Thank you for sharing the vital youth lab perspective and sharing with us how Arrow and different organizations, they're trying hard to amplify youth voices for them to make an effort in the climate change. So building on that, we understand that it's very important to amplify the youth voices, but it's also important for us to see how can we enable youth as equal partners, and that gives a better effect than just amplifying the voice. So building on that, our next speaker is Ms. Tiziana Garcia Tapia. So Tiziana is the Adolescent Development Specialist from UNICEF. She has 15 years of experience designing and managing programs on minority rights, education, and adolescent development across Southeast Asia, Africa, and Eastern Europe. So she will expand on the importance of young people as equal partners in climate action. Tiziana, please.
Thank you so much, Vivian, and sending a warm greeting to all of you who are online. Very happy to be here today and talk to you about the work that UNICEF is trying to promote in working with young people as equal partners in climate action, but not only. And I'd like to give as an introduction that this is part of an organizational shift to stop seeing children and young people, adolescents, as recipients or passive objects in our work, but really moving away from that and moving away from only asking for young people to have a seat at the table to really working with them from even before we get to the table together. Next slide, please. So I think everyone here knows that it's important to work with young people, but from the UNICEF perspective, this is very rooted in our mandate, which is the Convention of the Rights of the Child. There's an Article 12 which specifically recognizes the power and potential of young people to meaningfully participate in decision-making and to help create a better future for us all. We know that the more young people participate, the more skills that they develop, the more they are able to lead. So this is also about leveling the playing field and ensuring that we're not setting young people up for failure, making sure that we are equipping them, but we're also equipping everybody else in the room that is mostly not ready, not capacitated to even start to work with young people. We want to make sure that there's an enabling environment, that there's a safe space. And so our approach is to look at how young people can strengthen their skills, provide the guidance that they want, and work in partnerships with both adults and peers. We know that this has an impact on self-esteem, on confidence, crucial parts of empowerment. And so we invest in young change makers and support them to lead action in their communities. And this provides us a triple dividend. It improves the well-being of today's children, young people, and adults. It enhances young people's future prospects as tomorrow's caregivers, workforce, and of course, leaders, and improves outcomes for future generations. Next slide, please. I wanted to tell you about an initiative that we launched last year, which is the East Asia Pacific Youth-Led Action Initiative, which really aims to support young people to take action as change makers as they lead change for themselves and their communities. So this is part of UNICEF's priority to meet young people where they are and not to support young people to do our own advocacy or to do work for UNICEF, but really to support them in the change that they want to make in their communities. So there's three aspects of this initiative. We train young people as change maker champion trainers. We support them to cascade this training, this skills building initiative in their communities with their youth networks, with the young people that they want to impact. And then more importantly, we resource their youth-led advocacy projects. So there's a lot of mentoring and coaching that is provided, but ultimately we provide resources for young people to take action in the way that they want to. So far, we trained a cohort of 37 champion trainers from all over our region. So that's Southeast Asia, East Asia, as well as the Pacific. And these champion trainers, in a very short period of about 5 months, have themselves trained 1,133 young people, for the most part in rural areas, part of larger networks that are working together to achieve change. And of course, as many of you can imagine, climate was one of the top concerns for young people in our region. Next slide, please. Some of the other partnerships that we'd like to talk to you about is there's a UCAN partnership in Mongolia where young people are raising awareness about air pollution, which is a huge issue in Mongolia, affecting health, but more importantly, mental health among adolescents in that country. And they work to organize activities such as air quality mapping with volunteers, awareness, and trying to find solutions to address this issue in their community. As part of a collaboration with UNDP, we work on youth environment living labs in Malaysia, where again, we provide seed funding for youth-led programs, work placement that exposes young people to non-conventional green career paths, which we know is a very big issue. And we heard last week through other consultations with young people that we participated in that the green career path is something that many of us assume are quite obvious, but it is a huge concern for young people in our region as it is not well understood. And more importantly, the benefits of transitioning to green jobs is still not understood. So we're working closely with them in Malaysia and other countries. And finally, Youth Solar, or YOSO, in Cambodia, that trains and certifies adolescent girls and boys, connecting them to the private sector with mentoring, internship, traineeship opportunities to support their transition into solar jobs in rural communities. Thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Tishana. And actually, we will have a Q&A section later. So participants, feel free to drop your question in the chat box so we can ask the panelists after that. So thank you, Tishana, for highlighting UNICEF's partnership and work with young people and how UNICEF actually equipped young people to empower them as the change makers. So next, we will hear from Ms. Ashwaya V. So she is the thematic facilitator of Policy Coordination Group from the CYMG, and she has oversaw the preparation of the Global Youth Declaration, which is the final product of the Global Youth Environment Assembly. So Ms. Ashwaya will share outcomes and learnings from the 2024 Global Youth Environmental Assembly, including the Youth Environmental Declaration, which provides us from a youth perspective on how can youth work and in the field of climate change. Ashwaya, please.
Thank you so much, Vivian. I hope I'm audible. Hello, everyone. My name is Ashwarya. I'm the thematic facilitator of the Policy Coordination Group of the CYMG. So before we discuss my constituency's engagement with the National Economic Assembly through the Global Youth Economic Assembly and the Global Youth Declaration itself, I'm going to spend 1 or 2 minutes to explain who I am, where I'm from, and what my constituency does in order for everyone to better understand the background of the Global Youth Declaration itself. So UNEP has a stakeholder engagement mechanism which consists of 9 major groups, one of which is the Children and Youth Major Group. The Children and Youth Major Group consists of children from all over the world till the age of 18 and youth from the ages of 18 till the age of 35. We are an official constituency, which means we have certain set of rules and procedures to follow that has been made mandated by the constituency and is revised whenever necessary. And we also have frequent elections every year in order to make sure that we have fair and equitable representation from all over the globe. So, what is the mandate of our constituency? The main mandate of our constituency is to engage with the United Nations Environment Assembly, which is the highest decision making body when it comes to the environmental processes of the UN. We have or we conduct the Global Youth Environment Assembly, which precedes the United Nations Environment Assembly. This year, we had the second Global Youth Environment Assembly, which was conducted on the 17th and the 18th of February 2014. And for the first time, we were allowed to conduct this Global Youth Environment Assembly in the UNON campus itself. This shows our commitment towards all of the processes of engaging with the UNEP itself and UNEP's willingness to work with the youth by providing us spaces in their campus itself. So we had 2 intensive days of discussions relating to all themes that were to be discussed in UNESCAP. This includes themes like foresight, which was taken over and conducted in collaboration with the Office of the Chief Scientist, or themes like chemicals and waste, peace and security, environmental human rights defenders, and many other themes that we believe was very important to be addressed in UNESCAP. Apart from these two sessions that went around for 2 days, we also had intensive discussions about the resolutions that were supposed to be discussed in the OACPR, which is the negotiations for UNESCAP and the United Nations Environment Assembly, the 6th edition itself. So, in during these 2 days, we had participation from 600 youth from all over the world, with around 150 of them joining us in person in Kenya. We had sponsorships from the Office of the Chief Scientist of UNEP and from the government of France, and certain that organizations were kind enough to let us sponsor youth to join us in person in conducting such vital discussions that feed towards our inputs in the OACPR and the UNESCAP. But having all of these discussions set aside, one of the main outcome documents of the Global Youth Environment Assembly that we had this time was the Global Youth Declaration itself. The Global Youth Declaration is a condensation of all of our demands, all of our commitments, all of our aspirations, and all of our ideals put together in one document. It's too short to, reflect all of our aspirations and demands itself. But what our constituency wanted to do was to highlight the major concerns that we had, major commitments that we would give, and major demands that we have from UNEP, from the member states, and other stakeholders involved in the process of environmental governance itself. So the process of establishing this or preparing this Global Youth Declaration itself was a huge process in itself. We had consultations which were conducted online for the benefit of people from all over the world. In a span of 3 months, we've had around 3 to 4 online consultations, and we had an in-person consultation in Global Youth Environment Assembly. And through these series of consultations, we were able to condense all of the demands that youth had, all of the commitments and aspirations that youth from all over the world had uh, towards the 6th edition of the United Nations Environment Assembly. So, to condense the declaration itself, it calls for 3 particular things. The first is to institutionalize the principle of intergenerational equity. This can be done by various means, but what we wanted was the declaration was the recognition of the Global Youth Environment Assembly, and to streamline the participation of youth engagement and to make it more effective. In the sense that we not only wanted the seat in a table, we wanted the seat to matter more than it does today. We also wanted for the member states to develop systematic policy solutions informed by best available scientific evidence, which means that we wanted decisions to be guided by science and policy and not by politics. And we also wanted to ensure that all systems set up by through the United Nations Environment Assembly, being the sixth edition or in the future, has the necessary resources, financial or otherwise, to be counteracting the most important problems that we have, that we are facing in the globe today. The Global Youth Declaration itself consists of 5 sections. The preamble, which talks about why we are making this document. Our objective behind drafting the Global Youth Declaration was not only to put forward our demands, but we wanted the Global Youth Declaration to act as a bridge to any and all stakeholders that are like-minded and have the same objectives as us. We wanted to collaborate with not only member states and non-governmental organizations, but also our sister constituencies and individuals that have the same objectives that we may have, that are portrayed through that Global Youth Declaration. Sections 2 and 3 is something common that you might find in a lot of outcome documents, which are policy concerns and policy solutions that we believe should be the guiding factor for all decisions that are made in the United Nations Environment Assembly or other allied processes of UNEP itself. But the fourth section, which talks about our constituency and our commitment as youth, is what we as a constituency were very ardent on working towards. We believe that in order to demand for a seat in the table, it's important for us to portray our willingness and our commitments and our aspirations in order to be effectively bargaining for a seat in the table and to make the seat that we already have more effective and efficient. So, apart from our commitments itself, we have a section where we demand from UNEP and the member states and other stakeholders involved, which allies with our commitments as a constituency, not only as a constituency, but also as youth itself. But having said that, this is my constituency's engagement in our main mandate, which is with the United Nations Environment Assembly. But recently, in the recent past, our constituency has also taken a lot of measures to extend our engagement beyond the UNIA itself and get engaged with a lot of other allied processes which are administered by the United Nations Environment Program. In order to identify where we can get involved and to further youth engagement itself, our constituency is proposing or has proposed to start something called Youth Engagement in MEA's Research, which is essentially a research program to identify which MEAs or multilateral environmental agreements do not have a proper stakeholder engagement system or lack a proper stakeholder engagement system, which is essentially a bridge for us to establish a stakeholder engagement mechanism reaching out to the secretariats of that particular MEAs. We believe that if we want a seat in the table, we should not only demand for it, but actively take action towards establishing the same. So, in the process of doing that, our constituency has established the Ocean Science Governance Network, which is a youth network from various constituencies which have come together to start engaging in the Regional Seas program. We already have a coalition for the INC, which is called the Global Youth Coalition for Plastic Pollution. And we are also in the process of convening an expert advisory group, which convenes youth from all over the world to get engaged in science policy panels and its outcomes and youth engagement in science policy panels itself. So this is how my constituency has not only been actively engaging with our mandate, but we have been branching beyond our mandate to actively establish stakeholder engagement mechanisms in places where we believe is lacking. So that's it from my side. Thank you so much. I look forward to any questions that may be.
Thank you, Ashraya. Thank you for sharing with us different engagement and efforts has made by the CYMG to contribute to the climate action. So next we will hear from Juliet Braslaw, the Sustainable Development Officer from UNESCAP. So Julia works in the Office of the Executive Secretary at ESCAP, where she coordinates activities related to implementing the 2030 Agenda in Asia Pacific, which includes, again, supporting the Asia Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development. So Juliet will share with us the insights on youth engagement and participation opportunities. Juliet, please.
Thank you very much, and greetings to everyone. I hope you can hear me all right.
Yes.
Great. So many of the colleagues who already spoke set the stage really nicely. Next slide, please, to talk about some of the youth engagement, participation, and opportunities that have occurred, that are in process, and that are coming up in the future. I want to start by framing the conversation a little bit more, focusing on our common agenda, which is the UN Secretary General's vision for the future of international cooperation that helps to really turbocharge the 2030 Agenda and the SDGs. And in this umbrella of our common agenda towards the future, there is the policy brief on meaningful youth engagement in policy and decision-making processes, where it really lays it out very clearly how key youth are to identifying new solutions that we really urgently need, but how we really need to improve the participation in public policy making, decision making, where youth are almost invisible, but are working really hard on the ground and to also be involved and at the table. So 3 of the main recommendations are expanding and strengthening youth participation in decision-making at all levels, from community up to the national and global levels, and making youth engagement a requirement in all of the UN decision-making processes. So this is a process, but we now have the UN Office for Youth. And, we just heard from the colleague talking about UDEA. So really there are spaces, and we want to make sure that they're institutionalized and expand them. And then number 3 is to facilitate and integrate a greater diversity and representativeness, as well as preparedness, as a colleague mentioned about how training youth to be prepared to engage in new ways, to really be at the table and involved in the decision-making. Next slide, please. So under this umbrella of the Common Agenda and the 2030 Agenda, looking from the region at what does it look like to see where we stand in implementing the SDGs. There are many processes where there are areas for engagement for youth, starting from the national level at the voluntary national reviews and the ongoing political processes that happen in each country, and the sub-regional level, where linked to the follow-up and review, we have sub-regional forums on sustainable development that happen every year in each of the 5 sub-regions that ESCAP works in here. And so that's another opportunity where youth can be engaged in these discussions and at the table. And then at the regional level, this feeds into the Asia Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development that Shiva already mentioned, what the youth engagement looks like there with the youth forum and the youth call to action and at the forum itself. And then this all feeds into the global level at the high level political forum on sustainable development, where through MGCY, through the other stakeholder groups, and also sometimes through even the delegations of the countries, bringing youth to the high level political forum. Next slide, please. You already heard a bit about the Asia Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development and where there's areas for youth to engage, to really bring together the different stakeholders and have these dialogues in a formal setting and an informal setting for lessons learned sharing and for setting agendas and reviewing the 5 Sustainable Development Goals that are under review each year. So next slide. And this is a process that happens every year. So maybe you didn't know about or weren't as engaged in APFSD this year, but there's an opportunity coming up for the next cycle as well. So this looks like getting engaged, even starting from the national or sub-regional levels. Shiva mentioned some of the areas where there's key entry points for youth engagement. And then we also have a call for major groups and other stakeholders every year for the APFSD, which opens an opportunity to be involved in the People's Forum. It's linked with the Youth Forum, and then be able to sit at the table and be engaged in what's happening at the forum itself in Bangkok. So keep your eyes open for that coming up again this year. Next slide, please. And then thinking about what's going on this cycle, this year. Recently, last week, was the ECOSOC Youth Forum, and it provides a global platform for dialogue with young leaders, really looking at solutions to the challenges of youth well-being and visions and actions that youth have globally, and then recommendations and ideas to prepare for the Summit of the Future coming up in September. Next slide, please. So at the Youth Forum, there was a regional session, Asia in the Pacific, really bringing experiences from young people who are championing the Sustainable Development Goals, of course, with a focus on climate, since climate is a huge issue and an important action point, as well as SDG 13 being under review this year at the high-level political forum. Next slide, please. And then going forward, and next month, there'll be the UN Civil Society Conference in Nairobi, where there are a variety of different stakeholders, including many youth change makers who will be there to help inform what comes out of and goes into the Summit of the Future in September. And then the report, the youth report from the ECOSOC Youth Forum, one of the main outcomes of that forum, called the Voices for Youth for the Future, will then be brought to the high-level political forum in July and have a focus on those SDGs under review, as well as the key areas of action and priorities for youth. And it'll also help inform what's coming next, the big moment of the Summit of the Future in September. Next slide, please. So in the Summit of the Future, one of the key action areas is the meaningful inclusion of young people. And there are dedicated efforts underway already to engage and involve young people from a variety of backgrounds to really ensure that youth perspectives are integrated into the preparatory process of the summit. So you can also see the draft, the zero draft of the Pact for the Future, which is one of the main outcome of the Summit of the Future, and the Declaration on Future Generations, which will be included as an annex to that pact. So you can see some of the areas that have already been identified as key to really strengthen engagement, involve youth at all levels of decision-making, and also acknowledge all the work that youth are doing for many areas with climate action in a spotlight, gender equality, social justice. You know more than I do because many of you are the ones taking these actions and making these differences. Next slide, please. So in the light of this, there are many areas where you can get engaged already if you're not. There is a call, an open letter that has been spearheaded by the Youth Office, the UN Youth Office, to this campaign for youth to lead, to really help rebuild trust and restoring hope in institutions. It's a critical moment. And it's a letter to really let from youth and youth allies to the world leaders to say, let's elevate young people's voices and their demands that are building up towards the Summit of the Future and beyond. So this is something where you can add your name, your comments, and input. So I encourage you to take a look at that and get engaged. Next slide, please. And additionally, there are more resources here where there are many ideas of how to speak up for a common future. There's even an app that you can take a look at, and a lot of different ways that you could act, from thinking about your own life to your community to your votes to the global level. And it's something that could be a resource to also share within your networks as well. Next slide. So thank you very much. These are just a few of the pieces of what's going on, what's coming up, and where there are opportunities for engagement, just to complement what some of the other panelists have said. So I look forward to any questions you may have. Thank you again.
Thank you, Julius. Thank you for sharing with us the various opportunities that you have and how they can engage with different opportunities. So now we're open the floor for the Q&A section. So please welcome to unmute yourself to ask the question, or you can drop the question in the chat box. Oh, so I saw Caitlin raise your hand. So Caitlin, please unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, thank you, Vivian. Hi everyone. Apa khabar semua? 大家好. My name is Kaman. You can call me Caitlin, and I'm from Malaysia. So just to applaud the panelists for presenting such amazing presentation, and really leaving impact on me how to use my voice on climate change as well. So my question to all the 5 panelists is a summary of all the presentation. What is your advice for youth to step forward to make a change, and what is your tips, and what are your tips for young advocates who are going to who are stepping into this climate advocacy, or any advocacy they are really passionate on besides climate? Thank you.
Okay, so since Caitlin, you did specific like which speakers, so I will just invite any panelists want to answer the question first, or I will just ask according to the speaking sequence just now. That I will invite Minsun to answer first. Minsun, please.
Thank you, Vivian, and thank you very much for this question and asking about the step forward. I think there will be a step by step for the youth to engage in the climate action more meaningfully. So the first will be that understanding about the climate change issue. I think it is the basic thing, and understanding about its nature and then science, how it can impact to our society, and then think about what you can do. I mean, it doesn't need to be a big thing. I think it could start with a small thing. Like you can start from the small initiative from your community with your group, and then also what you understand about the climate change, and then you can also share with your friends, and then you can share with your colleagues to make a change all together. And for me, I think it's important to have a perspective. Like, I mean, as we already know that children and the youth is, we are saying that children and youth are the most vulnerable group for the climate change, but also at the same time, they really have a big power. I mean, I think some of you already read some news that in early April, in Europe, there was a very landmark decision that the European Court of the Human Rights has ruled that the government inaction on climate change violate the fundamental human rights. And then this whole work was initiated by the Swiss elders for climate protection, which is we think that one of another vulnerable group, the old and the senior groups of people. Then they make this kind of changes. So I think that the young people should also change the perspective that we are not only the vulnerable person, but also we have the power to make changes. Then that is also the important thing to do. And then understand the climate change issue, and then start to find something, small things that you can make changes. Yeah, and this is my first reaction.
Thank you, Minsun. And also, Shewa, would you like to add some comments on that to the question?
Yeah, thank you, Vivian. Thank you for the question. I think Minsun has already highlighted how small initiatives are very important in climate action. I think if you're passionate about climate change and climate action, I think don't be afraid to do little initiatives. It maybe in your community, or maybe at the national level with by collaborating with other young people as well. And another thing is young people should have a voice in the decision making, and you should be involving in the decision-making processes. We have, I think Juliet has already highlighted some of the spaces where young people can engage for the SDG review, and you can focus on Goal 13, climate action. We have APFST Youth Forum application opening between December and January every year. So keep an eye on that, and maybe you can apply and engage in the APFST Youth Forum and engage in the SDG review process as well. So there are different spaces for young people, and keep a look, keep an eye on that, on those spaces, and then engage in the policy level discussions, engage in the spaces, and also start the small initiatives if you are passionate about it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Shiba. And yes, according to Shiba, like I think the panelists, all the panelists has just shared like many opportunities that's opened for the like young people to get engaged. So any other panelists would like to add comments to this question? Because if not, we can go to some other question. Okay, then maybe we can go to some other questions. So I received a question is asking that from Tiziana's sharing just now, is that UNICEF is doing a lot of like capacity building for empowering young people as like change maker. So what do you think is the most like useful skills that young people could have when they want to like engage in climate action? Or is there any like suggestion for them to get involved in the like different activities?
Thank you so much for that question. There's no easy answer to this, because I think one of the things that we find is that very often action or advocacy is very much linked to speaking on camera or speaking in big events. And actually we find that what's more impactful and what makes a bigger change is working in this area using the strengths of the young person themselves. We've had many young people saying, you know, a lot of these opportunities to influence at different levels, national, international, subnational, require you to be a confident speaker. And I'm not a confident speaker, but I'm a confident writer, for example, or I can create a video that can, you know, put the audience to silence. So I think it's really about looking at your own strengths and seeing what you're most comfortable in to reach your objectives. But what is very clear in the work that we've done is that having very clear objectives and working with creating alliances, building your communities to make sure that you're not alone, but that you're also impacting communities as you work alongside them. It's really important, but really working through your own strengths and working through your own alliances, I think would be my best answer to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiziana. And then we'll send the like last question to Ashwaya and Juliet. I remember from both your presentation just now, you guys mentioned like some regional and sub-regional like events that provide opportunities for young people to involve. So there are like quite many questions asking like how can they get involved in those sub-regional and regional events, or like how can they get involved in the national and regional level planning and development in like UN agencies or like within like the youth organization. So may I invite Ashwaya first?
Thank you so much for that question. So in order for you to be involved in both regional or national planning of all of the policy advocacy that we do, you have to keep in mind that each constituency has its unique way of getting involved in national and sub-regional policy making and contribution in ways of policy and otherwise, right? When it comes to my constituency, the CYNG, we are planning something called the the Youth Environment Dialogues, or YED, where we want the national and regional planning, or national sub-national planning, to be a follow-up of what decisions were being established in UNFCCC, right? We don't want it to be a capacity building process that gives inputs to any global forums that we may have, but we want it to be a global forum follow-up so that we can aid in not only the development of policy but the implementation of it. So
I'm sorry to
when it
interrupt,
comes
Maya. It's a bit like choppy, your voice. Can you like
just
then maybe in the meantime, like I could invite Juliet to add on like to the question first.
Yes, of course. So there are every year from around September to November, these sub-regional forums for sustainable development that are ongoing that feed into the APFSD. And so the dates haven't been confirmed yet, but they're upcoming. So watch the SCAP web pages, and we'll try to also disseminate in these networks so that you can apply and engage and see if those are something that you could even, many of them are hybrid, so could even join online or potentially have the opportunity in person. We're trying to get more youth voices there at those forums. And they usually focus on the SDGs that'll be under review in the following year's HLPF. And then around the same timeline, so around October, November, the call for participation for the APFSD will open. And so that's something that you're invited to apply for as well, linked to whatever work you're doing and whatever organization you may be involved in. And so that's one important entry point to be involved in the APFSD as well. And we'll try to keep all of the opportunities up to date on our webpage so that you have time to follow along and apply.
Thanks, Juliet. Yeah, so I think if they're interested in joining, you can just like search for the website or link that Juliet just shared during her presentation as well. So Ashwaya, do you want to like add some comments?
yes, is my voice better now?
Yeah, it's better.
Yes, so just to sum up what I was saying, it mainly depends on where you want to engage and how you want to engage, and ultimately comes down to the constituency by way of which you're engaging in. But yes, a lot of youth constituencies have planning mechanisms that give into policy inputs in both the national and regional level, and even subnational levels. But it hugely depends on which constituency you're engaging through. Okay.
Thank you, Ashwarya. And since like time is running short, so like just to do a short wrap up, actually today's discussion we have shown like the key role that young people must play as equal partners in environmental action and climate decisions. And also from various panelists sharing, we can see different organizations they actually prioritize and they try their very best to include and to amplify the youth voices here. So we have heard inspiring examples and initiatives from our panelists. Some of them have shared the youth-led initiatives, some best practices, and current ways for young people to get involved. So actually, we calling to the theme of this panel discussion, the path forward is quite clear, is that we must keep creating opportunities that empower youth voices and leadership, and also like this making space for young people at decision-making tables and providing resources for youth-led efforts. And for youth, we just like motivate by our passion and then be committed for like climate action that we want to take. So once again, thank you all for the participation. And also like once again, thank you the panelists for giving us so much useful information and many opportunities today. So I will pass the time back to Sissy.
Thank you so much, Vivian, for moderating our session, and to our speakers and panelists for an insightful and fruitful discussion on the importance of bringing and providing opportunities to amplify youth voices. Now, as Vivian shared, one of the key points that were really raised was that for ambitious climate action with youth, it is important for different stakeholders to join hands and to advocate for young people, not just as beneficiaries, but truly as equal partners. Now, let's give everyone a warm round of virtual applause. And in closing, thank you once again to the amazing messages and insights shared by all of our speakers. Now, we will be taking a short wellness break for you to recharge, refresh, stretch your legs a little bit, and we will be resuming the sessions once again at 1:30 p.m.